Hey, it's Patrick and Kyle, and today we're talking about seeing Deep Purple live.
Yeah, Patrick and I went to see Deep Purple live August 25th, 2024 at the Budweiser Soundstage in Toronto, Canada. So, historically, neither one of us have been Deep Purple guys, but some of my first memories of hard rock and heavy metal was, like a lot of you, riding in the car with your dad, listening to classic rock radio. And I remember my dad telling me about Deep Purple despite not being the biggest fan himself. And yeah, as I started to get into that music, I kind of felt that Deep Purple were lacking the heaviness of Black Sabbath and lacking the songwriting and mystique that Led Zeppelin held. But I think I was just listening to Deep Purple the wrong way. They're not like straightforward heavy metal band by any means. I think, and I don't mean this in a bad way, just kind of more chilling around the house, cruising in the car kind of music. That's kind of the itch that Deep Purple scratches for me. So we get to the show. We just saw the opener. Hannah Wicklund finish up her set. She's a singer-songwriter. Usually we try to see all the opening bands, but across the street from the venue was the CNE, which is like a massive fair in downtown Toronto. And we couldn't access the venue without passing through. So for that reason, your concert ticket would get you into the CNE for free. And there's a lot of things there that would keep the interest of someone his age. So we didn't see the first group. But we had another conflict. Sorry, what was that?
And then we saw Yes for the second car band.
Yeah. Before we get to that, though, basically, here was my dilemma. At the CNE, they always have free concerts. And what they were going to have at 7:30 p.m. was Big Boy from Outkast performing live and for free. And of course, I'm way more of a rock guy than a rap guy, but I gotta say, Outkast, my favorite hip hop group of all time, I really wanted to see that. The opening band at our concert, Yes, was at the exact same time, 7:30. So I was actually planning on watching Big Boy and skipping Yes. But then when I saw that Big Boy had a opening act, I realized that it wasn't gonna work out. So we went to see Yes, and I'm glad I did, because my personal experience with Yes is definitely limited to Relayer, Tales from the Topographic Oceans, and Close to the Edge. I don't know if it's an accurate thing to say, but I've always felt that those three albums were the ones that metal fans were kind of encouraged to listen to.
And they also didn't play their most popular song.
That's true, and we'll get to that in a minute. And plus all the hit singles, like Owner of a Lonely Heart, which was what I found interesting. So the last song was Siberian Catru from Close to the Edge. I think that's a great song, but I guess there are moments of that song that sound similar to Owner of a Lonely Heart, and plus it was the last song, so as soon as they started, you just see that crowd of cell phones go up, and then as the song went on, the cell phones kind of slowly went away. And then when they came back on stage for an encore, people thought they were going to play it again. Phones came out again, and they didn't play it. So progressive band till the end, I guess, won't play their biggest song. And I definitely wasn't there just to hear that song, but it is a good pop song, and I definitely would have been cool with hearing it. But they played a 2-song encore, still didn't play it, but they made me a fan that night. This concert happened 6 days ago. I've listened to a lot of Yes since then. Made me a fan, and I definitely am going to be listening to a lot more of them in the future. So that brings us to Deep Purple touring for their new album, Equals One. I guess before we get to that, in the parking lot, I got my bootleg t-shirt. Sorry. I spent $60 on a t-shirt, and I got the poster here, tour poster. Also bootleg, I'm pretty sure. There actually wasn't a big gap between Yes and Deep Purple. Yes played a longer set than I thought, which resulted in it felt like 15 minutes, and Deep Purple hit the stage. The set list was 3 songs from In Rock. I think 5 songs from the new album equals 1, which is definitely a very solid album. And 4 songs from Machine Head. You got the 3 obvious ones: Highway Star, Smoke on the Water, Space Truckin', as well as Lazy. And then just several odds and end track. The encore was Hush, was never a fan of that song, and Black Knight from In Rock. What was your favorite song they played during Deep Purple set?
I know it's kind of boring, but a kind of a boring pick, but probably Smoke on the Water.
No, that's totally cool, because you know what? As much as that's an overplayed song, I'm one of those guys that, like, I don't want songs to be overplayed, so I don't listen to them much. So if I hear it in like a live setting, like, it sounds good to me, and I'm all in on it. My favorite tracks were probably, again, another obvious pick, but like the opener, Highway Star. I thought that was a great way to kick off the show. And a couple songs from the new album, Show Me and Portable Door. Those are, I think, 2 of the stronger songs from the new album. And they play both of those live. I also really enjoyed the keyboard solo and the guitar solo. Even though I felt like they had multiples of each, I just think they had the real keyboard solo, the real guitar solo, and then some of the songs had extended soloing during them. That's what I think happened. But Deep Purple, I have 3 albums by them. Basically just the albums that, growing up as a heavy metal fan, I was under the impression belonged to my collection. So let's start off with probably their second most well-known album, In Rock. That was 1970. My favorite tracks on here are Bloodsucker and Child in Time, which might be my favorite Deep Purple song of them all. Got Fireball here. And my favorite tracks are the opener, the Hard Rockin' Fireball, and then Fools. Then finally, probably the band's most legendary album, Machine Head, the aforementioned biggest songs of the band's career on here. But my favorite deep cut on here is definitely number 2, Maybe I'm a Leo.
Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite album.
Machine Head?
Yep.
Yep, right on. So, definitely a lot more Deep Purple for me to discover. They have a long discography, reaching all the way to the present day. But summer's over, and my taste started to change with the seasons, so Deep Purple's great summertime music, and we'll pick up where we left off when it gets hot again. So, that's it for our Deep Purple show. Same with like last summer. Last week of summer we saw Guns N' Roses. This last week of summer we saw Deep Purple. I hope that's a tradition we can keep going for years to come. Seeing a good rock show at the end of the summer. And just speaking of that, just a bit of a summer recap for us. We definitely spent a lot of time going to like free concerts in the park or traveling around to Ribfest and stuff, because we do live in the Toronto area. Lots of towns, very close, very populated area. And my favorite bands we saw was a ZZ Top cover band, was probably my number 1. AC/DC cover band was probably my number 2.
Yeah, and at that band, I was kind of like a funny guy, like.
Yeah, that was at a Ribfest, where that was actually a perfect location though. It was just the whole setup of that Ribfest was great for music. I think that was Uxbridge. But yeah, they had this DJ who was in between bands, and this guy was hilarious. I don't know if he was trying to be funny or was just like, I'm supposed to be hyping these crowds up. Not a huge crowd, not really into rock music. That was kind of the impression I got, but the guy legit had me dying laughing. Like, he was that funny. And then my number 3 will probably be the Pearl Jamming, who are a Toronto-based Pearl Jam cover band. I'm not a big Pearl Jam guy. The only album I have is still the debut album 10. That's the only Pearl Jam album I really like, more or less from beginning to end. But again, seeing like hard rock bands live and free, close to home, gonna go every time. And we'll conclude with talking about the Rib Fest close to our house, Aurora Rib Fest. I've been living in this house 15 years. I could jump over my fence and be at that Rib Fest. And compared to all the other Rib Fests in the area, they always have good bands. It's always like somewhat well-known Canadian bands, mostly from like the 80s and 90s, sometimes 70s, but who all had their time in the sun for sure on Canadian radio and are still doing their thing to this day. Some of the ones that stick out to me are Spoons, Platinum Blonde, Chilliwack, Glass Tiger, 5440, and especially my favorites so far have been April Wine and Kim Mitchell. Both those bands rule. And this year in 2024, they had the two headlining bands. They had the Northern Pikes, who to me are more of a, I call them like Canadian rock, just kind of a 90s style Canadian straight up rock, a little bit of alternative thrown in there. Not really my thing, but they definitely had some hits and we went to check them out. And then the headliner was Saga, who are a Canadian progressive rock band. But I'd say they're more like progressive rock, extremely heavy on the keyboards with a definite punk and new wave feel to them. But I spent a lot of time this week listening to Saga. Thought they were a cool band. Glad I got to see them live. And that concludes another summer of rock music with me and Patrick.
Yep, and on the day after that, it kind of like keeps going, and then I think that was the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, it was a Foo Fighters cover band, it was a U2 cover band, all kinds of stuff. But we had other plans that day. And that is it for us. We'll see you next time.